Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for being here this week for Deborah Kobylt Live. Calling me live right now on the phone from Florida. I'm very, very excited to have my guest with us, Derek Gores. Derek, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Deborah, for having me. This is cool to be coast to coast. Are you at the beach? I'm at the beach right now.
Well, I can't believe you said that. Come on. Last week, first of all, Derek is an artist, and I'm going to get a little more into who you are and what you do. But that was a very funny thing because when you and I did a little bit of a pre-interview, I was sending you pictures from the beach in Santa Monica. No, my studio's not on the beach, but that would be a great idea. I'm calling from Burbank, right outside of the Warner Brothers studios. But it's good that you're on the beach for this. So great.
Yeah, all right, let's do it. Let's have fun.
Okay, Derek, you are a collage artist, a gallery artist. You're in galleries actually throughout the U.S., here in Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, and beyond. You're also over in Europe. You've got some galleries over there in Germany and other places. You're also commissioned by, I find this quite fascinating, by brands all over. I mean, global brands, fashion brands, musical bands, and beyond. Everyone from Playboy, U2, Live Nation, NFL. You are quite a sensation. And what's amazing to me is you're an artist who recycles magazines, labels, digital materials to create works on canvas. It's beautiful. And one of these days, I'm going to purchase one of your pieces. It's incredible. So thanks.
Perfect.
I gotta ask you. How did you get started in this work? It's quite an outstanding array of artwork that you put out there.
Well, thank you. I've made art all my life. When I was younger, I was kind of one of those photorealist kind of pencil rendering artists, and went off to art school. I went to Rhode Island School of Design, and there I got turned on to more wild and crazy, abstract, expressive possibilities. And one of those things included, recycling and working with found objects, found materials. And, I lived my life a while, did some other things, but eventually, kind of circled back. And I found that with collage, I'm able to make an image and control it and have light and shadow and depth and everything. But with collage, I have the added fun of the like little surprises that you get in the scraps of paper. Every scrap that I pick up has its own history, whether it's some text or some surprising pictures or maps or recipes or little details. I try to make them the opposite of what you were expecting, so you get up close and it kind of melts into something different. And that's what's been thrilling for me, and it gives you something from far away and something else from up close. I'm having fun, and enough people on the other side are too.
You must have quite a magazine collection. What do you do? Have a subscription to just about everything, and they pile up in your studio, and you start tearing them to bits? I mean, I can't imagine your process, honestly. How does this go?
Well, I subscribe to like one magazine a year. Right now, I think I get W magazine, and then other than that, people donate stuff. I find them on my studio doorstep all the time.
Oh, that's cool.
I do have a crazy bookshelf filled with magazines, and then I kind of sort things by basic, like warm colors, cool colors. I rip out pages and things, and then special folders for metallic pages and hidden gems and favorite inspirations. It does get crazy messy, but usually before a project, I gotta straighten things up before I start some new chaos.
Yeah. So again, just delving into the mind of the artist for some of us who just kind of don't think this way. I mean, you have stacks of material, right? And do you go through it during the week? And then when something motivates you or moves you, you say, I'm going to create it with this. I mean, the process is what's amazing to me.
Yeah, good question. Let's see. For me, it's taken a long time to evolve. But as an artist, I try. I don't want things to be too linear. Yes, I can always control it. I can make sure I hit a deadline, make sure I hit a show. But I like to keep things dancing as long as possible. So, what my process usually looks like. Most of my pieces are figurative. I'm making a figure or a portrait somehow. It usually starts with a photo shoot, either pictures I've taken or pictures that I've hired somebody to take. I use that as my reference, off to the side, and then I kind of deconstruct the image, sometimes digitally, where I break it into shapes, insert patterns. Then I will glue my starting point onto a canvas, and then start layering in additional magazines and build it up, and kind of looking at the dark and the light of it. Step back here and there, and my only rule that I give myself is I can't use pictures of the object to make the object. So if I'm making an eye, I can't use an eye. If I'm making hair, I can't use hair. I've got to keep changing and use something surprising. And I like to live right on that edge where you can tell what it is, but your brain is putting the picture back together that's different from what you see. So I like to kind of play in the gap between what you see and what you think you see.
Let's talk about one in particular. Let's talk about a piece that you were commissioned to do, the Playboy cover. I find this to be so outstanding on many, many levels, particularly the shadowing. Again, these are from pieces of a magazine, correct? And you've made a collage of Hugh Hefner on the cover of Playboy. Complete likeness of him. Pardon?
Yeah, that was a special project. Hugh Hefner died, I believe it was September of 2017, I think, something like that. And a couple days later, I realized that they would do something great to celebrate his legacy, and I reached out to the art director and briefly, respectfully told them what I did, and that I would love to help them honor him. And so they commissioned me to make the piece, and they overnighted a bunch of, a whole stack of magazines from all the decades.
Oh, wow.
And gave me access to the online archive. And, my wife was saying, oh, honey, what a hard job you have. So, but and they gave me a few photos of Hugh Hefner to choose from, but of course I had to pick that iconic one with the pipe and just that kind of 60s flair and smirk and glint in his eye.
Incredible.
And then what I did is I used all the covers and little bits of really everything about the magazine, the jokes, the jazz album reviews, the politics, the interviews, a little bit of everything in there.
But you capture him completely, particularly his eyes, when you look into his eyes and the shadows in the background. How do you do that? Do you sketch your subjects out first, or does it just come together?
I do. No, I do sketch it out. In order for my pieces to work, there has to be some kind of a contrast. It really does come down to kind of drawing and the structure, the shapes of the light and the shadows. As long as I have that to work from and I can build those shapes, then the viewer's brain will read it as a form and as a portrait, and you'll see those shapes that are familiar to the likeness of Hugh Hefner in this case. In the eye, I think I used in the glint in his eye as a little bunny logo, I believe.
Oh, that's right. I mean, if you look closely, how big is that piece in person?
That piece, I believe, is about 30 by 40 or so.
Wow.
I actually have the original still.
Wow. How long does something like this take for you to make?
Once I have all the pieces in hand, and they got me everything quickly, and they liked my idea, and they really gave me the freedom to do what I want. Once I have all the pieces in hand, that one happened pretty quickly. That was about 2 weeks tops. I love it when I can have a month or so, but truth be told, I like working in the moment. So I kind of did it in a couple sittings, kind of straight through.
You say you reached out to them. Is there anyone else that you've ever reached out to where I don't know, it worked, or is there anybody you want to reach out to and do their portrait?
Well, about half of my galleries and contacts and opportunities have come from me reaching out. But sometimes people find me as well. Let's see, what else comes to mind? I did a bunch of done some artwork for bands like Van Halen before. That came from me reaching out.
Wow.
Trying to think what else other examples. The Kentucky Derby, I did their artwork, but I think they
Oh,
found me in that particular case.
we have that
But
piece.
in terms of
That's a
dream stuff,
stunning.
let's
That's
see.
a stunning piece, the Kentucky Derby. And you were telling me, hey, that was cool because you got to go as well, right? Have you ever been?
Oh yeah, yeah. I got to go to the Derby. Yeah, I took my mom and my wife and my youngest daughter, and they all had the fancy hats on, and quite a spectacle, Churchill Downs, and that was a fun project. They gave me a couple requirements. They wanted the twin spires of Churchill Downs track to be in the piece.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I think they wanted some red in there for the roses, and got it all in there, all the logos and elements
So a
for the
little.
race.
A little bit about you. You grew up back east as a kid, right? In New England, and
New
then
England, yeah.
when you were still young, your parents moved to Florida near Cape Canaveral, and you're still down in Florida. What inspires you? I know that you like to do portraits often of women. Why is that?
Why women? Well, let's see. I think it started just as what compelled me from art history. My favorite artists all the way back are Egon Schiele and Gustav Klimt, German expressionists from about 100 years ago. But I'm inspired by the kind of the lively line and abstract compositions that they set out with. But what I think I bring to the table now is maybe a more feminist approach. I'm glad for the moment that I live in, that we live in, where there's a dialogue of more equality and yeah, I'm aiming for a sweet spot where maybe there's still beauty, classic beauty. It might be the hook that you see in my pieces, but I like it especially when women see in my art, a strength and maybe a vulnerability, and never a passive. It's not a passive woman. She's not. She's always in on the moment. And even some of my pieces that are more erotic, I always collaborate with women on those projects, either as a curator or a photographer. That side, I want that side to be represented in my point of view. So I find it's what's most fascinating to me. I'm a man. I go with what's mysterious to me, and the living being and the female variety is where the mystery leads me.
So you have your studio in Florida, right? In Melbourne, is that correct?
Yes, Melbourne is part of the Space Coast. It's I live in a town called Satellite Beach, and Melbourne includes the O'Galley Arts District, where I set up shop. And I think I may have told you the other day. It's enough of a small town, but it's a hungry town because of the space program, and the community here is finding its feet in like the second wave of the space program with SpaceX and Tesla and that kind of high tech. I think we're second to Silicon Valley in terms of density of just engineers and that kind of tech thinking.
I did not know that. I really did not know
I think
that.
That's correct. Don't put that in the headline in case I'm wrong, but it's something like that. I mean, we're techie, and with a pop of surf culture, just makes for a ripe place. And I'm a big collaborator, so I like stirring things up with my creative friends, really on all sides of the coin, with tech and painting and music and hair and dance and improv and theater and coding and all that kind of stuff. We kind of I think of it as like a mingling of the senses. You let things clash together, and creativity will result that's that economies can thrive on. I make my pieces to hang on the wall, but everybody has their part in it, and we really enjoy collaborating together on it. So it's a great place to live and make art, and then I can travel for adventures wherever they lead.
Well, you're a creator, and creative people, at least for me, you need to be around other creatives. Again, whether it's a space program that people are creating something, art, theater, just like you mentioned, and then you just feed off of each other, and then you go home and you think, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then when I get to go to LA or go over to New York like I am next week, or different things, I bring a slice of it home and we stir it in and make something even cooler.
Let's talk about next week. You're going to be at the Moniker Art Fair, right, in New York City, and you're going to be doing live art. In other words, you're going to be making your art when you're there. I mean, I'm sure that you've sort of thought about what you're going to be doing, um, right? I mean, do you have any idea what you're
Yeah,
going to be working
it's a
on? That's
great
kind of
it's
cool.
a
So people
super
could just,
art fair. It's
yeah.
they're considered, I believe, the world's largest urban contemporary art fair. Which is, this is stuff that was sparked out of LA, and this particular fair is rooted in London, but they do their thing in New York too. And I believe it's about 30 galleries, but also they're shining a spotlight on some live studios for a couple of artists, and I'm honored to be one of those. So yes, I'll be working. The wall that I'm going to be creating a mural on is like 13 feet wide, 8 feet tall, and I'll be making a couple of
Wow.
pieces in collage. So yeah, I'll have a suitcase full of my scraps of paper, hopping on a plane on Monday, and then it's May 1st to the 5th, and it'll be a great time. But yeah, people can come see some of my pieces on canvas, but also see me working live during the show.
That is so exciting. Now, you've been named one of the 40 most important artists of the new contemporary movement. Um, that's quite a feat. What does something like that do for you? I mean, does it up your currency in terms of, selling your art, just get you more known within the art circles? Because I know this is a very difficult business. How do you get seen? Is it word of mouth? Is it?
It's a little bit of everything. I don't know if it's harder than other lines of work. It's the only thing I want to do. So I just, I hustle it. But I was in a show. Probably the best known gallery that I'm with is called Think Space Gallery, and they're in LA, and they're considered one of the founders of really the new contemporary movement. And new contemporary tends to be somewhat figurative, somewhat has some realism, but inspired and influenced by street art, as well as kind of video game and pop culture of the last 20 years. So it's an exciting movement. It's a very inclusive movement. A lot of young people and young collectors are able to take part, and it's very, very exciting. So yeah, they named me as somebody important in that realm a few years ago. And yeah, that particular quote that you mentioned has been said a number of times. So I guess it does help. And yeah, I've been able to, my prices have gone up a little bit each year in the last 10 years. And I mostly let other people worry about that part. I like that I get to keep making my pieces and keep them accessible, keep moving, keep hustling for the next show and the next piece, and it keeps moving down the line.
Would you say most of your work is, do you just sort of create what you want, or are most people sort of calling you up and you're doing stuff on commissions, or how do you work mostly?
That's a good question. I try to I try to mostly make exactly what I want,
Mm-hmm.
and I just make what I feel. I have a couple different series. I know you have some examples of there. They're
Yeah.
mostly the figurative, the strong woman, kind of mysterious and still and transparent, and you wonder what's happening. And that's how I like it. And then I am approached, or as we talked about, I approach some people about some commissions. If they feel like a good fit for me, or a fun industry to learn about, or some fun travel, I get to learn about a culture, then I'm open to it. But I say no to some stuff if it doesn't feel like a good fit.
Hmm.
So I like to keep the commissions, maybe a quarter of what I do. They take longer, but if it's fun and it's worth it, then I'll consider it. I'll jump in.
How many pieces do you have here at the gallery in Los Angeles? Because I'm going to make my way down there and see what you've got. I love collecting art, and I collect art from different artists that I really appreciate, and I have it all over my house. And how many pieces do you
Oh,
have? Maybe?
great.
Yeah, I do.
I think right now they probably only have a few of mine. It's probably a few smaller pieces. I don't know if it's 4 or 5 right now. I know
Mm.
I'm due to send them some more later this month. They're wonderful people. In fact, let me just say that one of the things I love about Think Space Gallery is part of their MO is just sharing the love. And what they do is they have like collaborative exhibits around the country and around the world, really. Like they'll do a Think Space meets Detroit, and they'll do a show in Detroit, with one of the galleries. So they spread the word by not, and sometimes people like to be territorial. They're the opposite of that. They share it. They spread. They're in for the movement even more than they are, their own individual sales all the time. Which of course is good business anyway. That's how I operate too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't really know how you can be in this business if you're not in it for the art first, and I know there's plenty that are,
Yep.
but, that's the way I would do it if I were a gallery. That's pretty incredible. So I know there's a few pieces that you have been talking to me about. Throwback Saturday. Do we have that piece that we can show? That's available, right?
It is, yeah. That's one of my newest ones. That one I will have in New York next week. That one is 4 feet by 4 feet.
Mm.
And I kind of enjoyed kind of the burned vintage colors and kind of the 50s hairstyle. And the woman is reading the paper, but the image on the paper is somehow transparent and is showing the wallpaper that's behind her. I like having things like a little bit odd, a little off, kind of borrowing from surrealism from the last 100 years.
I love the
Um,
Saturday, that she's reading, obviously, the Saturday paper. And that's very reminiscent of, so much art that I've seen. What inspired you for this one in particular?
that one I enjoyed definitely referencing, a moment in time from, say 50 years ago or so, but then updating it by having it be with all my rips and tears. And I think there's an old phone in there on the left side.
Yeah.
Kind of I like to, that one I was kind of going for just the glow of maybe a vintage moment that you look back on, but it's also slightly odd with the kind of invisible newspaper. And then I just like to leave it as a hanging sentence there that you don't know what's happening.
No,
next,
you don't. I mean, to me, it looks like
I like it that way.
to me, it looks like she's reading a paper from back in the day of like Norman Rockwell, and she's sort of sitting by the pool at the Beverly Hills Hotel. When I look at that, that's what I see. The colors, that's the great thing about art. You could just look at something, and whatever it is you see, you see. I mean, there's no rules. I love that. Have you ever shown your?
Let me
Go ahead.
Let me mention. I know you enjoyed hearing about my process. So when I am ripping and going for it, I try to go so fast that I'm not really thinking about the content
Right.
too much. I like to be surprised, and so I really just look at the colors and the tones, and then at the end of the piece, then I look in and notice what's there, and that's part of the thrill for me. And I think what people enjoy in my pieces is you can look at it and notice something new and kind of see the elements on the canvas, and they kind of hint at a story that we don't know what it is yet, but we're intrigued by it. In fact, one time I remember a woman came to my studio, and she was looking at one of the pieces, and she really, really wanted to read the rest of a paragraph that I had partly covered, and I even tried to help her. I tried to Google the paragraph to see if I could find the end of the sentence, and I couldn't. But little things like that, of like half moments and phrases that are suggested in the art that are taken in a new context from what people expect. And that's kind of one of the good things that comes from using that disposable magazine as material is maybe they're familiar, but I'm showing them to you in a way that you're not used to, which is the fun.
Now, also, just to make sure that it stays preserved, you put on top of your works, right, a really, really high gloss, correct?
Actually, it's not a gloss.
No.
I have used gloss before, but what I use now is I use a UV varnish, but it's a matte finish is what I'm currently intrigued by. But But yeah, the UV varnish will keep obviously the UV off of the pages. But what I like to tell people is, like any fine art, you don't want to hang these in
Sun.
direct sunlight or even indirect natural light. Fine art is better with artificial light on it.
Okay, well, this is just pretty outstanding. I'm such a massive fan. How many pieces have you done all told in your career of the
Gosh,
collage art in particular?
yeah, I should know that, but it's probably got to be, I don't know, maybe 500 or so. It's been full blast for the last 10 years or so with the collage. Before that, I was doing lots of merchandise design, and I was doing kind of corporate art for a company. But full blast with my own personal stuff with the collage and drawing is probably around 500 pieces or so,
God,
big
and
and small.
it's like any artist, right? It's such a journey, as you said, that you were working for a company, doing corporate work, and then it's such an evolution of how you find your way here.
Absolutely. I was 37 years old before I took the leap.
Oh wow.
I'm 48 now, so I guess 11 years of finally putting it together. You got to live a while. In school you learn how to render, you learn some skills, but before you know what you want to do with that, you've got to live a bit. And then, I learned how to assemble the parts of my life that I wanted to be in there. So the advice I give to people is use your whole life in your art, the stuff that matters to you. I'm a cat person, for example. So I started putting cats in all my art just for the fun of it. And I like illusions, and I like psychology, and I like sci-fi, and so those elements, I let them fall into the art, and that makes them thrilling for me, and people can read that thrill and respond to it.
Is there
when they're looking at the pieces, I hope.
Is there any hidden message in each pieces of your art that we would have to sort of look for? Any political message or whatever? Do you put them in there?
Hidden, no, nothing intentional. It's all, honestly, as I kind of described, intuitive and even hidden to me. But no, not like a hidden, like, okay, here I go, I'm going to slide this in there. No, the whole process I like to keep hidden even to me until it comes together, and I can finesse enough at the end. I try to keep it just out of control, and then bring it together just barely on the edge.
I get it.
That's about as
No, I
close
get
as
it.
get to it.
You can't really plan art too much. You have to have sort of a framework to work within, but then the rest of it just evolves. I get it. I really do. I'm just trying to sort of bring to light to people who don't think this way and aren't particularly artists, who just, what goes on in your head when you do this. So, okay, so next week, the Moniker Art Fair in New York City. That's down in NoHo, right? Along Broadway. I know where that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
From May 1st until the 5th. And also people can look you up, right, on your website, DerekGores.com. So much of your work is displayed there, and your entire history, how you even got into this, and, where you're from. I so appreciate you being here. I enjoy talking to you so much. One parting question. Is there one person you would just absolutely love to do a portrait of?
Ooh.
Other than me.
Well.
Other than me.
Right. Let's see. Right. Other than you on the beach, if I could get maybe Lady Gaga standing next to David Bowie, and can I have a 2-for-1, and I could do that?
Oh my gosh! Why don't you just do it?
Lady Gaga would be very fun to play with. She's speaking of mingling of the senses. She does it all. She's visual. She's of course musical. Now she's in the film world.
I love her.
Love to make a music video for her with an animation of all my collage stuff. Actually this year I'm with the help of my publicist, reaching out to a number of brands and people, kind of a dream list of people I'd love to play with. So you may see something along the lines of what we're talking about. I want to keep myself guessing and keep running with this. So maybe Miss Gaga is my next phone call.
Send something to her, especially that you're going to be in New York next week. She's known to show up at this stuff. She would be phenomenal. I get it. I could see that. Wow. Bowie and Gaga. That's beautiful. Okay. We're going to see if that's your next piece, or do it and present it to her. I mean, I just love her. She's truly
Good
my
idea.
favorite artist. In fact, on the way here, just so you know, I was blasting her in my car so loud. I was blasting Born This Way that I actually missed my exit. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh no. So maybe maybe it's meant to be. Anyway, Derek, thanks so much for coming on with us, and we'll keep a lookout for you. And good luck
Perfect.
next week in New York too.
Deborah, thanks so much. Great to talk to you. See you on the beach.
Yeah, I will definitely see you on the beach. If not in Florida, then in Los Angeles. I look forward to it. Everybody, thanks so much for tuning in today to Deborah Kobylt Live. You can find us on YouTube and Facebook, Instagram, and listen to us on Apple Podcasts, on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and just anywhere else that you listen or watch your podcast. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Bye.